So a lot of people have been asking me about the rumored, well, no longer rumored, 707 horsepower Jeep Grand Cherokee Trackhawk, or HELLCAT, or whatever you want to call it. And basically, my take on it is that FCA, Fiat Chrysler, is going to model their lineup similar in the way that the Germans do. Like, for example, you have BMW, you have Mercedes, you have Audi. All of them have their regular lineup. They have, like the A3, A4, A5, A6. You got the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 series. You got the C class, you got the CLA, CLS, E class, and so on. But every one of those classes for the Germans have a performance oriented, and they usually have two tiers, and Mercedes is really getting back to that. For example, Mercedes, the new E-Class that was just released, they came out with a E43 AMG and an E63. And the E43 hasn't been around since late 90s, but they did make a C43, I think, up until like 2003. But so they're getting back to that. So I think that the SRT lineup is going to look very similar to that. You're going to have the mid-tier SRT, which is going to be in the higher 400 horsepower range, and then you're going to have the full-blown SRT, Trackhawk, HELLCAT, Demon, whatever you want to call it, for that upper tier level, which will compete with directly the higher level AMG or S line, RS line, or M variants for the German competitors. As far as the Jeep Grand Cherokee goes, in terms of pricing and what you could expect to see on it, I think that the Grand Cherokee Trackhawk will be a $80,000+ vehicle, simply because the luxury SUV market right now is huge, and it's growing very quickly. They're in a very high demand. Sedans and coupes and all the other variants of a car company's lineup are kind of on the way out. People want SUVs. People want that ground clearance. People want to be able to see over other cars, and they just like that big car feeling. So I think that just given the fact that these are going to be very desirable vehicles from the beginning, plus the extreme performance that you don't usually get in an American car, I think that's really going to drive the price up. And if they're not driven up higher than 80 grand from the factory, I think you're going to see what happened with the HELLCATs. The dealers are going to start upcharging them. They're going to start placing premiums on these cars, and they're going to start basically bidding them off. I mean, when the HELLCATs, especially with the Charger HELLCAT, when they first came out, there were dealers that were selling these things above 100 grand. And you got to remember that these things had a base price of about $60,000. So, this is 64 and some change, I think. But there were dealers that are selling these above 100 grand, and most of them were being sold around 80. So I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think the Trackhawk, and in terms of investment, I think the Trackhawk, like the HELLCATs, Chargers, and Challengers, are going to be a great investment, great long-term investment. So if you get a chance to buy one of these at a relatively reasonable price with low miles, I think it would be worth it to buy one and put one in a garage, because by 2025 you won't see these things anymore, not with these type of power plants, and they're going to become very, very desirable vehicles.